I remember it clearly how all this begun. Family secrets from father to son. Inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives. Whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets.
Which meant that they were able to see their environment through what we had later determined was a type of ultrasonic interaction with the environment.
They have big ears?
No ears. No, nothing as far as ears or eyes that were visible. They had teeth.
So they're bouncing sound off of objects and then reading it?
Yes, similar to what a bat does in order to read its environment.
X is a Roman numeral for the number 10, meaning the 10th planet in the universe. They were very excited to discover it on December 31st, the year 1983. But suddenly, the chief scientists of the infrared astronomical satellite system that sent this thing into deep space, and they sent back pictures of it, and they released it to 6 of the top daily newspapers around the world. Suddenly the government came in, started putting a lid on all this.
Yo, what's up, people? Thank you for tuning in. I hope you came for some good entertainment. Just give me 1 second to set my mood over here.
Gotta start the day off right, man!
Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, let's get into it.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Montague William III. And what I will tell you may well sound absurd, but the less who believe it, the better for me. For you see, I'm in banking and big industry. For many a year we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this begun. Family secrets from father to son. Inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives. Whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see,
smack this motherfucker.
I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. You would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game, and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives. So, go out and work as your body clock fades. And when it's all over, a few years from the grave, you'll look back on all this, and just then you'll see that your life was nothing, a mere fantasy. There are very few things that we don't now control. To have lawyers and police force was always a goal, doing our bidding while you march on the street. But they never realize that they're only just sheep. And the world will be run by the ones you can't see.
I looked that dude up, and I think it's satire, but I'll put the original YouTube video in the description.
Behold a Pale Horse. He wrote that book. He's like probably considered the Helio Gracie of conspiracy theories. He's a big part of me going, oh, because he is the one who opened my eyes to the fact that he thought he was being set up into, he thought they're trying to get us to believe in aliens so they could fake an alien attack so that'll usher in the New World Order. Because what happens if the aliens
William
attack?
Cooper.
We all unite. In all the movies, you see them in the movies like, oh, they're attacking, let's call China. China's got this new thing, and the Russia, and then we're all together, we all unite. That's the whole purpose of everything. It's always been about everything. There's so many pieces. How do we get to that?
But wait a minute, who's the master fucking puppeteer that's
It's a
pulling
long
all these
story,
cords?
man. I would need an hour to explain all that. But William Cooper, he was the guy who he was like, aliens exist. I'm looking at these documents. They're having these meetings about these crashed alien aircraft. So he's he's got his own little private radio. And then he's like, oh, these motherfuckers are setting me up. This is all bullshit. He goes, they're setting up a fake alien invasion. That's what they're doing.
So as of the day of making this, the CIA actually there's a whole news article, I don't know if it's on Daily Wire or Daily Mail, but this dude found out, and he's got all these guys on the record from the CIA saying that they have a part in this crash retrieval, and they have 2 crafts intact, and they have, I think, 9 total, and so of course the CIA is involved, you know, it's a big fucking shocker.
that indicated that he was out to, things that he did would threaten that New World Order.
Oh, absolutely. He had written an executive order. I don't remember the exact number now, but it's available to anybody that wants to go look it up. He had written an executive order ordering the printing of United States notes, which would have broken the back of the Federal Reserve, which is one of the major instruments of propelling the United States into the New World Order by destroying our economy, the basis upon which we live, the basis upon which our whole society is founded, is being ripped right out from under us. That was one. Number two, he refused to provide air support for the invasion of Bay of Pigs, which ensured that would be a failure. He had threatened publicly on several occasions to disband the CIA and scatter it to the thousand winds. He had ordered, in the documents that I saw, he had ordered the intelligence community to prepare a plan to disclose the truth about UFOs to the public. Now, I don't know what that truth was. Could be that maybe there are no extraterrestrials. But whatever the truth was, he had ordered a plan to be prepared that disclosure was going to be done according to that plan within the following year. And the intelligence community consider that to be out of the question. And according to the documents that I saw, his assassination was ordered by the policy committee of the Bilderberg Group, which is really the secret world government, and was carried out by agents of Division 5 of the FBI, the Secret Service, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the Office of Naval Intelligence, of which I was a part, in Dallas. And it said that the assassin, the man who actually administered the head wound, was the driver of the car, William Greer, a Secret Service agent who used an assassination pistol built by the CIA for assassinations that was really an air gun that fired an exploding pellet or could fire a small hypodermic needle or a poison dart using any one of many different deadly poisons. Specifically, it said that he fired an exploding pellet which contained shellfish toxin, and that the act was plainly visible in a film withheld from the public. I looked for 16 years to find that film, and I finally found a copy that showed William Greer turn around and shoot the president, and since 1988 I've been showing that film wherever I'm able to show it to wake people up. It is not our government, though you have to understand, that is doing these things. It is not our government that's failing us. It's not the Constitution or the Bill of Rights that's a bad instrument. It is a group of men who belong to secret societies who have infiltrated our society and our government at all levels and are destroying it and subverting it from within. And every member of naval intelligence that I knew who was an officer was a 32nd or a 33rd degree Freemason. And I asked my commanding officer at one point, I said, why are all you guys Masons? He said, Masons are used to keeping secrets. It's part of their fraternity. So if you want someone who already knows how to keep a secret, you recruit Freemasons. Well, later on, I found out what the truth is. The truth is you're not going to be a naval intelligence officer unless you are a Freemason.
That's interesting. I mean, that's a very bold claim. I'd like to see that video.
There's nothing on Earth that's even remotely close to what they are. And they're the size of a grizzly or polar bear in their mass. But they move quickly and fast like a spider. And so that was where the hybrid spider reference came from.
So what, they can change directions like spiders do really quickly?
Hop, move. It's just unbelievable how quickly they're able to move around.
Intimidating?
Very intimidating.
Where did you see these creatures?
These were on Calidus III, Planet 2. This was the invading enemy that came and was used to try and destroy the planet. The purpose, again, trying to reduce the planetary populations.
Were they made or manufactured, or are they real?
And they were also lab-made somewhere. They were not a reproducing species. They were androgynous in that they didn't have any male or female. They didn't have any reproductive organs. They were built for a purpose, and that purpose was to destroy as much as they could on Planet 2.
Did they communicate or talk or?
Nope, no communications that we were able to pick up on or hear. The communications we had surmised that they were, in order to coordinate their own activities, was based on a hive mind concept in which there was a controlling command structure somewhere that fed the information and the objectives, the different go orders that each of the soldiers needed to follow.
How many of these creatures were there that you dealt with, that you saw?
Thousands.
Thousands.
Thousands. Not all at one time, but over the period of the war. Yeah, there were a great many of them.
No offense, you're not a super intimidating looking guy. How did you deal with something so vicious and venomous?
Heavy firepower.
But it looks like they have some kind of body armor.
Their skin itself was pretty much impervious to small arms fire.
Right.
And so it required larger caliber weapons in order to even just do any damage to them.
Why don't you describe them for us?
They are a four-legged creature that didn't have any visible eyes, which meant that they were able to see their environment through what we had later determined was a type of ultrasonic interaction with the environment.
They have big ears?
Nope, no ears. No, nothing as far as ears or eyes that were visible. They had teeth.
So they're bouncing sound off of objects and then reading it?
Yes, similar to what a bat does in order to read its environment.
Did you witness these creatures killing humans?
I did. I was in enough situations seeing the carnage that they had delivered. They generally would attack in groups of 25 to 50. Seemed to be the standard norm for a unit of one of these. And seeing fellow soldiers being ripped apart was certainly a shocking and psychological aspect of it. When we first encountered them and having to try and figure out how best to defeat this particular enemy, we weren't the first ones to encounter them, so we benefited from someone else's first experiences.
Somebody on Planet 2?
Somebody else on Planet 2. And so having their experiences with first encountering and learning that these small arms were ineffective and that the larger caliber rounds were the only means of stopping, slowing down, or delaying their attacks. So we were prepared in a sense in that we had deployed larger caliber weapons.
I've been down the conspiracy rabbit hole for many years, going on like 20 plus years, and I never heard of this guy up until yesterday. So but S.S.P is the Secret Space Police or Secret Space Program, and well, at the end of the video, after liking and subscribing, you can type that name and info into the search engine of your choice. I would go with DuckDuckGo.
The grief that Roswell was a real alien incident. So several of them told me stories, which I said, okay, thank you. But a few years later, with another naval officer,
sorry about that,
Commander Will Miller from over in the Tampa area, and Dr. Stephen Greer, we were at a disclosure conference in Washington, D.C., and we got an appointment to with the chief of the Intelligence Committee of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon. And we told him our respective stories, and the admiral that was in charge of the committee, there was about several officers there, I don't remember how many, half a dozen, besides ourselves, said, I don't know about that, but I will get back to you. And he didn't get back to me personally. He got back to Dr. Greer very shortly and said, what you told us is real. There was alien visitation. And now that same person has subsequently denied he said that. However, we have independent corroboration that he did go checking, found the location of the so-called special access programs, or special access program, and was told, Admiral, you don't have need to know, therefore we can't talk to you. So that's the same fate that we know that Barry Goldwater suffered when he was running for president and tried to find out about these special access programs. And Walter Webster Hubble, Bill Clinton's emissary, whom he sent to find out about it, suffered the same fate. You can't know about this. And a few other people, Jimmy Carter, who mentioned before his election that he had UFO experience, and that he was going to find out about it when he got elected, but never a word about it thereafter. We're inching ourselves along at this point with the International Space Station, learning to utilize near-Earth space orbit for useful purposes, learning more about living and working in space, which we have to do more of, and then learn how to survive for longer periods in space. And now we have to also learn some new propulsion systems, and that launches me into the frontier science that I'm so interested in. We have major problems in science at this point because of the clash between general relativity and quantum mechanics. One, the science of the very, very small, and Einstein's general relativity, the science of the very, very large, and they don't come together well. And we're going to have to solve that problem before we really can go off into the solar system and outside of it. Well, it has to again be a national initiative. We've got to recover from where we are at the moment. But I don't think that we're going to do away with Kennedy Space Center. How fast current future administrations are able and willing to build upon a global space effort, that remains to be seen.
Tell me what you think of the comments. Do you think Edgar Mitchell, astronaut Edgar Mitchell, you think he's telling the truth? He mentioned Dr. Greer. He mentioned the propulsion systems that he's interested in because he knows this stuff's real. He's talking about using this stuff later on and everybody getting used to it. I think also that they are waiting on all of this conflict to be over with. I think there is a global depopulation taking place. I think that.
Believe that.
And I'm not saying it is. I think that, and I think that after all of that, and after we go through all of this war and everything that's happening right now, I think that eventually these guys, these extraterrestrials, they're going to show their faces to everybody, and they're going to offer more technology than what we have right now, and try to, just see how much more and how much further we can go. And
they have been showing themselves as much as, and still the best time to see them is like when the sun is either rising or when the sun is setting. For whatever reason, it kind of fucks with their cloaking technology, I guess. They're more visible at that time. And according to Dr. Greer, if you're on a high level of conscious thinking, you can think them into appearing to you. And he has an app, CT, is it CTE? Or is it something like that? CE5. Yeah, CTE. I think he might have some of that because, he's done a lot of good research. I can't knock him for that, but he's such a friggin' egomaniac.
Take a good listen.
And we're very excited about having found this, what they term Planet X. X is a Roman numeral for the number 10, meaning the 10th planet in the universe. They were very excited to discover it on December 31st, the year 1983. But suddenly, the chief scientists of the infrared astronomical satellite system that sent this thing into deep space, and they sent back pictures of it, and they released it to 6 of the top daily newspapers around the world. Suddenly the government came in, started putting a lid on all this information. But now we find out just on the week of January 7th, the year 2002, that all of a sudden they're squashing all of this information and keeping it from the public. They said that it was an asteroid when finally they began to admit that it was there. But now, in Newsweek magazine, they actually show it with a reflection, because now any astronomer on Earth can get a picture of it. And so, the year 2002, January 7th, they finally admitted there is another planet, and it's heading toward the Earth, between the Earth and between the Sun. And it will displace the gravity of the Sun temporarily as it passes by, just as it did in the days of Peleg.
TikTok, that was William Cooper that was speaking and giving us the information in regard to the discovery of Planet X in 1983. He mentioned a newspaper article that was released, and eventually they put a lid on it, right? They covered it up. I found that newspaper article that he was talking about. He says that I believe there was 6 that was put out, but I happened to track one down, and I'm going to go ahead and play that video for you now. It was a gentleman who actually posted a video like 10 years ago, and I referenced it, and I'm going to share that video where the gentleman actually shows us a newspaper article, and he begins to discuss it. Check this out.
Mystery heavenly body discovered, possibly as large as Jupiter, by Thomas O'Toole, Washington Post staff writer, December 30th, 1983. A heavenly body possibly as large as the giant planet Jupiter, and possibly so close to the Earth that would be part of the solar system, has been found.
Woo, baby, if you know what that's worth, we'll make Nibiru a place on Earth.
Man, ain't nothing wrong with smoking weed. Weed is from the earth. God put this here for me and you. Take advantage, man.
Alright, let's get it.
In this 1999 sit-down with David Icke, Arizona Wilder tells us why reptilians love human blood. Check this out.
The blood has something. It has something in it. It has secretions from the pituitary gland and from the pineal gland, and it has a very strong drug in it that they also, I mean, this is the one that keeps them from going crazy, and it's like heroin or like endorphins, and it's much stronger. But what they need is, for it to be secreted in the blood, is they need terrorization of their victims before they are killed for their blood. Or if a young woman is beginning to menstruate, they need the menstrual blood, and they have to terrorize them to get this to come out in the blood and be secreted in the blood.
We have to understand that they need for the blood to be stressed so that it can release certain chemicals, giving it the effect that they need.
Element comes and secretes out through the blood. This all comes out through the blood at that time, and it's at that point they are actually staring into the eyes of the head of at some of these rituals, or at a reptilian. They are staring into the eyes of this person, and they're held. It's a hypnotic gaze these reptilians have, and it holds the victim in an absolute trance, in a trance of terror, and then they are killed at that moment as they are staring into their eyes. And not only do they they can't hold their shape when this happens.
The human shape.
The human shape they cannot hold. They go back into reptilian shape as this is happening because it's like an animalistic type of excitement of the kill.
These reptilians are so excited that they go into a frenzy and just start ripping the flesh off the humans uncontrollably. So
stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap. No.
So much so that they can't hold themselves back.
The fat from the intestinal area is highly valued as they use it on their skin. And they will drink the blood, and the blood is highly sought after, and it goes according also to rank within these creatures as to who gets what when. And their sacrifices have increased in the last, it started increasing in the early 80s. The amount that they were doing is increased.
You know, life is a beautiful thing sometimes, because speaking of reptiles, I have to interrupt this for some breaking news.
It's to my good friend from Florida, Mr. Byron Donalds. Thank you.
I want to thank the gentleman from Utah, our new vice chairman, and I want to congratulate him as well. Mr. Speaker, President Biden consistently has stated that he never discussed businesses with Hunter Biden's associates. That is a lie. Let me repeat that even for the colleagues across the aisle. It is a lie. Throughout our extensive investigation and from the lips of credible witnesses, it is abundantly clear that the Biden family business is Joe Biden. Let me emphasize, there is no Biden family business except for Joe Biden's 40-plus year career in Washington, D.C. That has been the family business. As a member of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, we have followed the paper trail. We've conducted our investigation by the book. We have discovered damning evidence, and we continue to do so every day. Our investigation has led to some alarming and eye-opening findings, which point to the president's knowledge and involvement in illegal business transactions. For example, in 2018, James Biden, the president's brother, received $600,000 in a loan from AmeriCorps, a financially distressed, failing rural hospital operator. Bankruptcy court documents suggested that James Biden received these loans based upon representations that his last name, Biden, could open doors in the Middle East based on his political connections. Now, we all know James Biden doesn't have political connections. Joe Biden, his brother, has political connections. Specifically, AmeriCorps wired a $200,000 loan into the account of James and Sarah Biden. Here's what makes the evidence damning. On the same day, James Biden wrote a $200,000 check from the same account addressed to his brother, Joe Biden. And for the American people, the brother of James Biden is the President of the United States. Next example is an email obtained by the committee from a Hunter Biden associate, mentioning that 10% of the relevant joint venture that held by Hunter for the big guy, 10% of a relevant joint venture was held for the big guy. At this point in the committee's investigation, we've established that Joe Biden is the big guy. Through the web of transactions that purposefully tried to hide the big guy's involvement, let me stress again that Joe Biden is the Biden family business. Let me illustrate an example of the confusing web of transactions. A Chinese company sent $5 million to a joint venture between Hunter and an associate. That same day, the joint venture sent $400,000 to an entity that Hunter Biden controls alone. Less than a week later, Hunter Biden wired $150,000 from this entity to a company owned by James Biden and Sarah Biden, James Biden, the president's brother. Sarah Biden later withdrew $50 $60,000 from the same company. Less than a week later, Sarah wrote a personal check to Joe Biden, aka the big guy, aka the President of the United States, for $40,000. 10% of the $400,000 that was mentioned in the email by the associate to Hunter Biden. Another example is when a confidential human source overheard a Burisma executive claiming to have bribed then Vice President Joe Biden for $5 million. As I stated earlier, Joe Biden consistently says that he never discussed businesses with Hunter Biden's associate. This was a blatant lie by the commander-in-chief, and the American people deserve to know the truth. Joe Biden never thought that the Oversight Committee would get this far in its investigation. And additional damning evidence will soon be revealed to the American people. This leads me to my next point. The Foreign Agents Registration Act, or commonly known as FARA. To be clear, Hunter Biden has never, and I repeat, never registered as a foreign agent, despite his lucrative work being done on behalf of foreign interests and his many travels on Air Force Two. And that wasn't just because he missed his dad. Specifically, Hunter has been documented business transactions with a Chinese government-based energy company called CEFC. Interestingly enough, the same company, CEFC, is the same one that is affiliated with the company that sent $5 million to Hunter Biden. How is this not the definition of being and acting as a foreign agent? Paul Manafort was convicted for far less. The time is now to open up an impeachment investigation pertaining to the president's direct link to blatant corruption, pay-for-play tactics, and acting as a co-conspirator to the crimes committed by his family on behalf of Joe Biden himself. The committee will continue to do our due diligence. We will not be worried about the distractions from the Democrats and from the press. We will dig through the confusing web of Biden LLCs, which I will add, Mr. Speaker, the confusion of these companies and the confusion of these transactions were done on purpose to conceal this money from the American people. And I will also add, to conceal the money from the Internal Revenue Service. Because, you know, Joe Biden likes to talk about everybody paying their fair share except him and except his son. They're not concerned about a fair share. We're going to continue to uncover all of this. And we're going to answer and uncover all of the information that is going to outline exactly why, in my opinion, representing the 19th District of Florida, why Joe Biden deserves to be impeached. Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States has taken money from foreign sources. Meanwhile, the world is on fire. Is the president compromised? Do agents in the Chinese government have the upper hand on the President of the United States while our enemies are on the move? These are serious questions that the House of Representatives has a responsibility to answer. And the way to get all that information is through the impeachment inquiry, which will continue here in the People's House. And with that, I yield back.
Ooh, you dirty rat, man. You dirty, dirty rat. How the fuck you gonna have a crackhead as a son and become a president? Like,
there's three giant corporations: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard.
Listen, I don't care who you are. If you're an American citizen, perfect. This message is for you. If you're an international human, you need to learn about this information as well. This is RFK Jr., the nephew of JFK and the son of RFK, both of whom were assassinated. He is a presidential candidate in 2024, and this is important.
Yep.
Which own, collectively, they own each other, so it's really one giant corporation. But they also own 89% of the S.S.P. 500. They own everything. They've now decided to buy every single family home in America. So if they stay on the current trajectory, They will own 60% of the homes in this country, single-family homes, by 2030. They literally are trying to buy everything. And the head of it, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, is on the board of the World Economic Forum, and what they've said, we want this great reset, which is you will own nothing and you will be happy. Well, they're on their way to making sure that we don't own anything. So you all probably have heard of people who are about to buy a home, and somebody comes in at the last minute with a cash offer and snatches off out of the market. Right. And it's usually an LLC with an ambiguous name. But if you trace that up, you'll find it's owned by BlackRock.
And then, 20 minutes ago, he released this video. I'll help you buy a home. You better be watching.
20 and 30-year-old kids who can't afford to buy a house and even can't afford rent and are moving back in with their parents. This isn't happening because young people have suddenly gotten lazy. Monthly mortgage payments for home buyers are up 20% just in the last year, and that's because interest rates have doubled. Meanwhile, the cost of the average home has gone from $250,000 to $400,000 just since 2019. And those higher home prices have also driven up the cost of rent. So now Americans are paying a third of their income for rent. That's the highest ratio since records were kept. So what's happening? Well, what's happening is BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, these giant corporations which own 88% of the S.S.P. 500, are going into real estate. These investment firms swoop in as soon as a house comes on the market. They outbid prospective home buyers with cash offers. They add that property to their investment portfolio, and then they rent it back to you or your children at the most exorbitant rate that the market can bear. So how can our kids or the typical American homeowner win a bidding war with BlackRock? By 2030, these giant corporations are on track to own 60% of the single-family homes in our country. So BlackRock wants to be everybody's landlord and everybody's neighbor, but I'm not going to let that happen. When I get to the White House, I'm going to restore affordable home ownership to every American, and I'm going to do that without raising the national debt. And here's how I'm going to accomplish that feat. I'm going to create a federal program that backs mortgages at 3% financed by tax-free bonds. These mortgages are going to be available to people only, not corporations. This will drop mortgage payments by more than $1,000 a month for a medium-priced home and allow your children to outcompete BlackRock in the market. So here's how it works. Imagine that you had a rich uncle who was willing to co-sign your mortgage. Well, I'm going to make Uncle Sam that rich uncle. It's not a giveaway, it's a loan guarantee that makes that property affordable to millions of Americans who cannot now afford it. This is just one of the policies that the Kennedy administration will deploy to create millions of new home buying opportunities at payments of less than $1,000 a month. We're also going to change the tax code to get corporations out of the single-family home market. And we're going to work with municipalities to get empty lots and derelict homes back into circulation at low prices. As President of the United States, I'm going to create a housing boom in this country the same way that we did it after World War II when we made home ownership affordable for working people.
Headlines around the world recently when he said the devil was present in the Vatican. You're talking about something very real, aren't you?
Certo, realissima. Dico, se credete al Vangelo, credete all'esistenza del demonio.
Absolutely, very real.
As to the devil's presence in the Vatican, he says that's no surprise. He once had to perform an exorcism on another exorcist.
The first thing we need to do if we're going to find out if the devil is at the Vatican is take a tour underneath the Vatican. As we arrive underneath the Vatican, we see that it's laid out in a number of rooms marked by letters, as we could see in this aerial view map. Now we will be exploring some of the rooms in this map. Let's start off by looking in room C here. As we look into the room, we see that this is a mausoleum of Lucius Tullius Zethus. The Vatican goes on and explains that this room was used for offerings to the dead. We read, "View of the north wall and mosaic floor. In the corners of the mosaic floor there are 8 marble squares with circular holes through which offerings to the dead were poured during the funeral rites carried out in the burial chamber." So here we have a room where offerings are done to the dead. That's pretty common in Catholicism. Now if we look in the next room, room E, so here in this room they have a vase which has the image of a Medusa. So here underneath the Vatican we have a Medusa. Again, we ask ourselves the question, this is a vase, but yet it's kept underneath the Vatican. This could have easily been removed. If the Vatican was a holy church, you would think that they would have done this. You think underneath the Vatican they would have things that are sacred to Christ and not foreign gods, not idols and images of foreign gods. Now as we move down further to room H, here we see that this is the mausoleum that is one of the largest and most luxurious mausoleums underneath the Vatican of St. Peter's Basilica. It says that it was built at the beginning of the second half of the 2nd century during the reign of Emperor Marcus Aurelius and belonging to a freedman of the important Valeri family. And as we're in this mausoleum, we see that there's lots of idols from the old Roman Empire. We ask ourselves, why does Rome keep these idols down?
So that's really interesting. I mean, just curious, if you had your choice, you can only pick one. You either get to go into Area 51 and see everything that they have in there and learn all their secrets, or you get to go to the Vatican or whatever, underneath the Vatican and see everything that they have. I mean, personally, I'm going for the Vatican.
We've reached the point now where there is a global network of ultra-Zionist groups that answer to Israel and the Netanyahu regime currently, who are targeting anyone who is in any way questioning the fact that Israel is not God's gift to humanity in every last thing that it does. This does not only include the general population. The ones they focused most on are Jewish people. Jewish people who are questioning the Israeli treatment of the Palestinians, which is horrific, are being targeted by these ultra-Zionist hate groups. I say hate groups because their modus operandi is to get the public to hate their targets, to silence them. And it's extraordinary how easy it is. I'll tell you how easy it is with me. They go to, and I'm talking a ridiculously few people that don't represent the Jewish community at all, just claim to. They'll go to a venue and they'll say, this man Icke, he's going to come and say it's all the Jews, he's anti-Semitic, he's a racist, he's going to say the Jews are doing this, the Jews are doing that. I ain't said any of that. The venue does not then come to me and say, look, these people are saying you're going to say this. And I'd say, look, go on my website and you'll see a video, a 10-hour talk that I've been doing for the last 2 years. Show me where there's any anti-Semitism or racism in it. Quite the opposite, because what I'm saying is, ironically, we need to put down these irrelevant manufactured fault lines of race and religion and culture and color that divide us and realize that we're actually all one consciousness having different experiences, and that we've got caught in the illusion that the experiences of who we are when we are that consciousness that's having the experiences. So I am presenting what you could easily call the ultimate non-racist view of life, because I say race is a nonsense and an irrelevance and an illusion. Same with all of it, religion. But the venues never check. They just say, oh okay, we're not going to have him then. Yeah. Saying that, even though he's not going to say it, and they cancel the event. Now, when a venue says to these people who orchestrate emails and letters, all orchestrated, same few people every time. The venue says, no, hold on, freedom of speech, mate. We're not having, no, he's going to be allowed to speak. What they then do is up the ante. They start saying to the venue, well, these are the consequences for you if you do this and whatever. And then some of them go to the police and they say, oh, this could be very, very dangerous to the audience and the staff because there's going to be big protests against this person. And the police in Leicestershire, one of them, the guy that handled it, was a counter-terrorist officer, right? You're laughing. So did I. So I went to meet this guy. They go to the venue, right? And they say, there's got danger to the staff, danger to the audience, and one of the things they said to the venue was, well, they could damage your reputation, right? And I'm thinking, now I thought the police were there to defend freedom of speech, not persuade a bloody venue that it'd be better in their interest if they destroyed it, right? And then what these ultra-Zionist hate groups do is they then contact the media when a venue cancels because of them, and they say the event's been cancelled because the venue realised he's a Holocaust denier and an anti-Semite. Of course, the media then repeat that, and you see a headline like Holocaust denier David Icke's event cancelled. And when this has appeared on these mainstream news sites on the internet, I've contacted them, every single one. I don't usually, but in this case you have to. And I've said, before I call my lawyers, would you please send me the evidence you have to support that headline? In every single case bar none, they take it down in minutes because they have none. All they've done is repeated what these ultra-Zionist hate groups have said. And what we are now seeing, and there's been a number of examples this week as we speak, is more and more Jewish people are coming out and saying to about these hate groups, you don't speak for us. There's one guy on the internet, a story that was broke today, a Jewish man who did a video on YouTube basically saying to these ultra-Zionist hate groups, I'm Jewish and you don't speak for me. In fact, you're causing anti-Semitism by what you're doing. He had his video deleted, right? So when you've got Jewish people speaking out against Israel and the Israeli government, that's really bad because it's very hard to paint them as racist against Jews when they are Jews. So they are targeted even more fiercely by these ultra-Zionist hate groups than people who aren't Jewish. And their freedom of speech is disappearing. And what we need to do is come together, all of us who are being blatantly defamed and misrepresented by these groups. And they are very few in number, but very well funded. And jointly expose what they're doing, because they are destroying freedom of speech in an ever-gathering way, week after week after week. And if it goes on, there will be no body who can speak in public and challenge the official narrative, because they'll all be banned. That's where we're going.
How do you feel the freedom of speech is for us in society, and what do you think's wrong about it, and what do you want to change about it?
Well, I'd like to have some. I think that would be a good start.
Well, you can say what you want here. So.
You see, the thing is that what is freedom of speech? It's the freedom to speak. So I read a politician today saying, I agree with freedom of speech, but there are limits. Well, there's no freedom of speech then. Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak. If anyone's not allowed to speak, then it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom to conform to certain parameters of what are acceptable. And then what that's doing is giving power to some authority to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And as we see, and we're seeing it massively now, once you give that power to an authority, it then starts interpreting what can and cannot be said in a way that squeezes and squeezes and squeezes more and more of what cannot be said. This is what political correctness is about. What is political correctness? It's simply manipulating the target population to silence itself, so those in authority don't have to. It's ridiculous. Now, people say, well, you say that people can say anything. Well, yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. There are laws against incitement to racism, incitement to hatred, incitement to violence. There are laws against that.
Are they laws you agree with?
Yeah, and if people use their freedom of speech to incite those things, then there are laws to deal with that, and those laws should deal with it. What I'm saying is, once you start censoring freedom of speech at the point of delivery, or even more sinister, before the point of delivery, by banning people from the right to have access to the communication networks or speak in public, that is what the fascists do. What did fascists do in Nazi Germany? What does any tyranny do? It wants to silence those that are exposing the tyranny and have a different version of events to the tyranny. So what did the Nazis do? They burnt the books. They banned the meetings of people who were exposing the Nazis. And now, in this inverted world, we have people who call themselves progressives, and they seem to have this extraordinary self-delusion that progressive mentality has something to do with being liberal, when it's not. It's the opposite of liberal. They are the ones that claim to be wanting people to be inclusive and to have diversity.
But maybe on their terms.
When they're destroying diversity, and they have become the new tyranny. They have become the new Nazis.
The Rothschilds come from the Orsini family. Roth means red in German, and the Orsini means red bear, little red bears. That's what Orsini means. The Grey Pope is Pepe Orsini. He trumps the black, he trumps the white Pope.
The Grey Pope is even
Pope.
higher than the black and the white Pope.
The Orsini is the Maxima family. They are the maximum family. They are on top. And somehow they've trumped the Colonna.
I don't know who this dude is, Santos Bonacci. This is really interesting what he says. Obviously it's not Rothschild, it's about the Rothschilds. I just want everybody to know the name.
And the Farnese, which I know without any doubt through all my studies that they are the three most powerful Illuminati families.
What about Rothschild and Rockefeller?
Well, they are Orsini. They just changed their name. Rockefeller were Rothschilds. Rothschilds were Orsini. Orsini were a family which have their blood lines in Babylon and Egypt. They tell you that. You read their biographies. They'll tell you that. We go back to Nimrod. They tell you that. The Rothschilds say that. We go back to Nimrod. How? Through the Orsinis. So Rockefeller, Rothschild, Orsini, and then you go back to the Persian and Egyptian dynasties.
And what is the name of the top family?
Orsini would be on top now because they're called the Maxima.
The Maxima. The Orsini.
Then I would say under them would have to be the Collins, the Colonna, the Columbus families. Or Enterprise. I think it's an enterprise. I don't think they're even really families. They're just it's the funds. It's the Venetian funds that they created. It's where all the money power is. And then the Farnese. Some people say the Farneses are the most powerful that have researched because they actually created the Tuscan Empire. They created the 12 founding cities of the Etruscan Empire, which the Romans supposedly destroyed. But the theory is that they went down to Rome and created that as well.
Now, why do... There's a lot of people out there that think the Jews own the media, the Jews run the world, look at everybody's last name, it's a Jewish last name. Is that just to distract? Make a boogeyman? Yeah, is that what that is?
Pretty much. Even though, the Jewish Sanhedrin is... struck a deal with the Jesuits, I believe. So the Jesuits they are the military arm of the Vatican, which is Catholic, and Catholic means universal, hence they're trying to claim that they are the universal Christendom base. So the Judaic base, which is the other monotheistic aberration, monstrosity, they are the Jewish Sanhedrin. They are like the cardinals of the Jews, and they are dark people. And I'm sure they're in cahoots with the Jesuits, who run everything. Top of the Jesuits. Everybody else comes under their command. They are the military.
And who's the top topic?
According to David Icke, it's not. Those people all answer to the aliens, to the
Again, one more time,
reptilians.
of the Jesuits?
Orsini.
The Orsini.
The Pentagon is owned by the Farnese family, though.
Oh my God! Somebody owns the Pentagon.
Well, if you look at the mansion of the Farneses in Rome, it is Pentagon shape, and they wanted that shape for the Pentagon. So,
which is a pentagram.
They're all different rabbit
which
holes.
Is satanic.
It's a pentagon. A pentagram has spikes. The Pentagon has the spikes.
But you could fit a pentagram inside the Pentagon.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good
They all
one.
own.
Yeah. And that's from the Farneses. The Colonna family, they own stuff like California, New York, the stock exchange. But the military, the Farnese really run. The Jesuits are the military. They run the US military. Australia, where I come.
CIA, Nazis.
All of it. Catholics in action, CIA. Catholics
Israel.
in action.
Israel founded by basically Khazarian Rothschilds, the Mossad, MI6. They're all ran by the Jesuits.
Shalom, bitches. And no, I'm not Jewish.
Absolutely.
And then all the crime families are all Catholic based. They're ran by the Jesuits. So they're playing both sides of this ball.
Absolutely they do. They're masters at it. They have to. Otherwise, they get caught out. They have to run both sides. They're co-opting everything. You see these grassroots movements like Greenpeace, they start up, next thing you know, you see the corruption coming in.
That's all I'm going to say on that.
You're going to make this happen?
No.
Listen up.
We're going to make models, much cheaper. Then we photograph the models.
Fake newsreels?
Fake newsreels. For the past 10 years, people have been looking at our fake newsreels and listening to our fake commentaries.
And they accept it for the truth. And you can do it. Stop 100 people in the street. How many of them have actually seen a missile or a satellite? They're just told they exist and they believe it.
Yeah, you're getting there. I knew you would.
Well, now the moon rocket and the satellite, that you can get away with. That's too remote for people to grasp. It's too far away, but this... I mean, you invented this village on the Indo-Chinese border. Well, somebody could check up.
Very mountainous territory up there. There'll be no survivors in 1973. No rescue work. Radiation scare.
Yes. You can do it. This could be the news for 1973.
Not necessarily exactly like this. We only plan in detail 1 year ahead.
Oh, you only plan 1 year ahead.
Hey, tell me, what is the news item that's bothered you the most in the past year, 1967?
Oh, well, it has to be the new American intercontinental ballistic missile, the Boy Wonder, doesn't it?
Just the one I asked him to set up for you. The new ICBM, codename Boy Wonder, with a much-talked-about Mercury warhead. I haven't any special effects up here, but perhaps with the proper sound. Blast off. And Robert Larkin, television director, high IQ, 35 years old, is scared. Scared by nothing. It doesn't work. It's a scientific impossibility. The same goes for the much-talked-about Mercury warhead. Perspex.
Well, if this rocket doesn't work, then the others...
They have a fireworks party at Cape Kennedy almost every other day. Well, you didn't really believe there were all these things whizzing about up there, did you? Sputniks and rockets. Astronauts crossing their legs for 8 days.
How long has this been going on?
Since Hiroshima.
And the H-bomb, you mean... That doesn't work either?
Right. Dirty.
Very, very dirty.
What was your first reaction? Relief. Oh, yes. Yes, it has to be. Relief. Only 12 people are allowed beyond this point. Most of them work in the photographic department, taking phony newsreel pictures of our models and processing film and so on. Sit down, please. Ah, pretty pictures from our stills department. The boy wonder.
Do you really think that missiles and satellites are mile out of country?
No, not at all. I've only shown you the hard news. There are other things, much softer things we thought might interest you.
Well?
1973, we thought it might be time for an anti-teenage movement. A long-awaited return to maturity. Sheriff. Perhaps even a religious revival.
Oh, I see. You want me to arrange the grand opening of Ruislip Cathedral? 1st of October, 1973. Mark the date down in my 10-year diary.
We are very serious about you. There are things about you we like very much. Qualities you have to offer. Qualities that we perhaps don't possess at the moment.
That's great.
Our file on you. I have to return to July the 25th, 1966, the day you broke it off with this girl, Sheila. You really did reveal rather a lot of yourself that day. But, of course, if you really mind...
Help yourself.
You said to her, it won't work, Sheila, and she said something, and then you said...
You remember I went away with Rachel and the kids to the seaside? It was midweek, and this huge stretch of sand was empty. Just a circle of footprints around 3 sandcastles and tracks out to sea. The whole damn day of my family marked out in front of me. The sun was going down. Rachel kept calling the kids to get dressed. She picked up buckets and spades, corny bloody things like that. I was up at the car. I looked at those footprints, and I knew those people were slipping away. There were things I could tell them.
We rather like that bit about footprints. You see, in this job, some of us have got rather a long way away from the idea of footprints in the sand.
Those footprints were made by my children. Now, you want me to scare the hell out of them with every bomb from A to H inclusive. Well, why? I mean, when did it all start?
1945. You may remember the Americans let off their 2 atomic bombs. Well, they didn't want other people doing the same thing. I mean, you do see that, don't you?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, to scare the people off, the Americans put it up, and the atomic bomb was halfway along the line to something much bigger, the hydrogen bomb. It didn't work. They spent 5 years in negative research.
Well, what about the Russians? They're supposed to have quite a pile of these things.
We were surprised when they started their tests. Then we got a few feelers from their Secret Service. Nowadays, we work very closely together. Oh, all these stories about spies going off to Russia. Mr. Philby, remember? Just good copy for the Sunday papers.
Good copy. Well, the Chinese. I mean, they've just announced their bomb.
Yeah, we played along with it. We recorded their phony explosion. We're rather hoping the Chinese will come along, complete the pattern, you know.
In Vietnam, hundreds of people are being killed every week. Well, you can't do that with your models.
No. And you can't kill people of bad habits in 2 generations. They like to carry rifles. They like to put lines on maps. And we let them because we control the situation. There's no danger of world war. Just a simple choice for everybody. Capitalism or communism. Strawberry or vanilla. It all adds up to the same thing now we've got rid of the big bangers.
Well, how can you be sure that Johnson, Kosygin aren't working on other things? Poison gases, bacteria.
Pathetic, man of your intelligence. You don't want to destroy the world, neither do I. What makes you think that presidents are different?
Well, they've made some pretty good stabs at it in the past.
There wasn't the right sort of control then.
He said now that we got rid of the... Didn't he just say, now that we got rid of the guy?
Segan aren't working on other things. Poison gases, bacteria.
Pathetic, man of your intelligence. Just a simple choice for everybody. Capitalism or communism. Strawberry or vanilla. It all adds up to the same thing now we've got rid of the big bangers.
Well, how can you be sure that Johnson, Kosygin aren't working on other things? Poison gases, bacteria.
Pathetic, man of your intelligence.
Johnson.
You don't want to destroy the world, neither do I. What makes you think that presidents are different?
Well, they've made some pretty good stabs at it in the past.
There wasn't the right sort of control then. Nowadays we know better. Politicians are easy to control. The grosser mentality boys who like to be photographed getting in and out of Daimlers in Whitehall. They come right at the bottom of our organization. A few rungs up the ladder, there are the people in the top secret factories. Just those in a position to know they're making weapons that don't really work.
But there must come a time when somebody wants to use one of those weapons. I mean, somebody is standing there with a finger on the button.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Nobody presses the button. We control all the crises. We build them up and we shut them down.
We? Again?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Near the top of the hierarchy, there are the economists, top civil servants, top brass in the military. Those men who are supposed to view the nuclear tests and so on. And above them, CWNS.
Right at the top. Classified World News Service. Just who the hell are you?
It's obvious, isn't it? Just a very few of the top people in communications in every major country in the world.
Oh, you mean you run all these magazines?
No, of course not. We just get them to take some of our coffee every week. Television is much more important to us. It all happens so quickly.
Now, you say you can put out what pictures you like on television. Doesn't anybody try to stop you?
No, nobody wants to. 99.386% of the population wouldn't believe this conversation. And the rest are working for us. And they're the top minds, the really responsible people. They know they're guaranteeing the lives of their grandchildren the only foolproof way.
Scaring the hell out of their grandchildren. Well, I won't buy it.
You must admit there has to be some kind of control in this world of ours.
Well, I'm gonna leave it here. I like the name of this dude's account. Y'all need to do that. Do that for oneself.